Thanks for joining us. And Nick, hi Nick. So we're kind of distributed around the East Coast here. Uh, we got Scott Thompson on and ready to go. I'm going to share my screen and go for the start here. So hopefully you guys can see my screen. Testing 1, 2, 3. You can hear me, and Scott, you can see me and hear me.
Yep. Yes.
Loud and clear. The screen looks good.
Thank you. Yeah, I had to figure out why I was my bandwidth was horrible last week for me, but this should be pretty clean and pretty good.
Yeah, you're winning today. It looks good.
Excellent. And when people are joining in, it's been socialized. Thank you, Tim, for putting that on the networks. I think LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. And again, as I explained, this is a weekly tech talk, let you learn. We bring in different guests from directly in our specific industry set and those that have services that tie back into that. Today, we are joined by Scott Thompson, co-founder of Stories Incorporated, and he's going to talk to us about visual storytelling, how that's very important, not only for obviously storytelling and meaning communications, but also how that ties back to tech, to NLT. And so we have a lot of history and forward-looking stuff. Very excited about today's conversation, Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, this is going to be conversational. I know you have some PowerPoints to get us started and guided. So you can, in a minute here, share your screen and start introducing yourself, your company, the vision of your company, what you guys have been doing so far, and so on. So without further ado, let me stop sharing my screen so you can start sharing yours.
Great. And before I share my screen, I just want to say it's really great to be here. It's special for us really because Ghermay and NLT was our first client back in 2012. So now it was the fall of 2012. So almost to the day, it's been about 8 years. And so that was a really important project for us. It was our first corporate client. And we have definitely evolved a lot over time since that first project.
Yeah.
And we frankly, we just wouldn't be where we are today without that first project. So really great to be here. Thank you so much for having me. And I will share my screen and give you a little bit of an introduction to our company.
Wonderful. Thank you, Scott. And I was kind of excited about us doing this because, there's going to be some questions like, why are we talking to a non-specifically tech company? Well, you guys are really a tech company behind the scenes as well. So I'm really excited about the kind of questions. Obviously, I don't want to hog the airspace, but when I'm filling in space, if you can't tell, until you're sharing your screen, by the way.
Yeah, I'm realizing I need to change. My operating system updated and it's asking me to change the system preference. One second.
And we have a team on the line today, just from looking at the attendance. It's mostly NLT folks, mostly East Coast. Like I said, we do have a couple of people towards the Midwest. We're expanding it out that way a little bit. But this is we've got people up and down the East Coast, let's say, joining us. So thank you all for joining us today. All right, I can see your screen and you're good to go. Yep.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, we are Stories Inc. And I mentioned a little bit before that our first project was with New Light Technologies in the fall of 2012. And it's been an 8-year journey since then where we've learned a ton. It's been a journey of listening to customers, listening to the needs of customers, and adapting our company along the way and continuing to improve our processes along the way. So that first project was very critical in our starting up.
Awesome.
So let's see. A little bit about us, Stories Inc. We create high quality substantive video, photo, and blog content at scale. Really, we like to talk about our company as being great at two things. One is to uncover stories based on employee experiences within the companies that we work with. And then secondly, we take those stories that we've uncovered, which we typically have recorded, and then we're creating lots of high quality content that shares those stories that we uncovered about the experience of working within that organization. A little bit about our process. It's a process where we are very thorough about making sure we're creating an amazing experience for our clients, where we run a kickoff call, we prep our storytellers to create a really comfortable environment for them to open up and share stories with us. We handle all the logistics and scheduling that goes in as part of that process. And then we actually are conducting those interviews where we're focused on uncovering stories, and then post-producing a library of content. It's video, it's blog, it's photo, and getting that in front of our clients until and iterating on it until it's perfect. And back since we started in 2012, we've been fortunate to work with some really great companies that are very intentional and deliberate about shaping their culture as much as they can. And it's really showed in the people that we've spoken with in those companies. They have amazing stories that really speak to what it's like to work there. I'll get more into what that actually looks like and the importance of stories a little bit later. But in the meantime, a little bit more about what makes us unique is we like to think of what we provide as falling somewhere on a spectrum, where on the one end of the spectrum is these do-it-yourself or user-generated content platforms, where there are these companies out there that provide a platform for employees within a company to record themselves on their iPhone and submit the content to the company. There's definitely a use for that. It's not our style. And then similarly, at the other end of the spectrum, there are the big budget agencies, which are, very time intensive, extremely high production quality, but very expensive. These are the types of agencies that one might hire to create like a beautiful cinematic Super Bowl commercial. There's a place for those, but again, that's not our where we fall on that spectrum. Where we are is somewhere in the middle, where we're efficiently and affordably creating a large quantity of substantive content while maintaining a high quality bar. So while we're not quite as scalable of a solution as the DIY user generated platforms, we are creating a very impressive amount of content for the amount of time that we're spending with our clients. And then similar trade-offs on the other end of the spectrum, where the quality of our content is very high, much more so than you'd get from the user-generated platforms where someone's taking a selfie video on their phone. So yeah, that's a little bit about what makes us unique. It's kind of the best of both worlds there, where we're creating really engaging, substantive content close to fully at scale.
Right. And I think that's an important spectrum, by the way. I think there's going to be plenty of use cases all the way across. So even a high budget company might go back to that DIY model for some things and then pivot back to the high quality content.
That's exactly right. Yeah. In fact, many of our clients use us as well as companies on the DIY platform side of the spectrum and companies, the big budget agency side of the platform, side of the spectrum. And there are use cases for all three and even more. We're biased, but we're excited about all the great feedback that our clients give us about how easy it is to work with us, but also how much we're providing, how many, for example, how many videos we're creating from one day on site at a client location. There have been cases where we spent one day on site and the client gets a full photo library and 20 high quality produced videos from that one day on site.
And we experienced that. You guys have been, we're blessed to have Lauren on the call listening in, Scott, by the way. But we did experience that firsthand when you guys were kicking off the company as a startup to build this company. And you guys have been quality since day one, to be honest with you. That's what I like about Stories Incorporated.
Thank you. No, that's great to hear. And yes, Lauren is on the call as well. She's my co-founder and partner at the company. And we have a team of, 9 of us. We have content strategists. We have a videographer on staff. We have a director of client service, someone in sales, someone in marketing. And so, yeah, that's a little bit about us. I'm going to currently stop our share and open it up to any questions before I dive into, one topic of conversation for this presentation.
Absolutely. I'm already getting some private, so you guys did a bunch of videos for us, developed some good content, even had a book about the company that you produced in 2012 that I still cherish, and essentially a result of the work that you guys do. And you guys still do that, by the way? You produced the book?
We've actually produced a book in the last 2 years. It's not as common of a piece of content that our clients ask for, but yeah, I think over the years there's been probably 3 different clients that requested print books, and we welcome and love any different medium as a way to tell and share the stories that we've uncovered.
Right. And I like it because it's a posterity thing. So it's a snapshot. It's not digital, so it's not getting any software upgrades. It's you can pick it up and fill it and so that was 8 years ago. This is where we were at. And this is what we did. So while we're doing this, I'll see if I can grab one here. But we have a bunch of people on the call, and the touch point here for us is that we're a technology company providing solutions for cloud computing, software engineering, geospatial technologies, and so on. And there's a touch point, all of this, and especially on the geospatial technology side, it's about storytelling. One of the things that happened over the last probably 5-6 years now, one of our partners, Esri, created a platform called Story Maps. It's about visual storytelling. So it's very important to have a good quality content developed around what you do. And in terms of the types of companies you guys have had, there's been a big tech companies like Dell. And then you've had obviously startups like in your life technologies 8 years ago. What's the most exciting thing about having started this company and growing it so far with the type of customers you're attracting? What's the trend look like?
I think first of all, what I'm really excited about is that after every project, we send out an NPS survey, a Net Promoter Score survey to all of our clients, just to get a sense of how we did, how we're solving their problems, and what they thought of the experience working with us. And we're on a streak of too many to count, where the scores that have come back have always been mostly 10, in some cases 9, but always what's considered a promoter on the Net Promoter Score. And that's really a Net Promoter Score of 100, which is incredible. It's humbling. And it's so that I'm so excited about that, we're doing something that we find to be actually really fun and really it's a cool thing that we get to do. We get to go into organizations, we get to meet people within those organizations, and we get to hear their stories. It's incredible. And so to be able to do that and stay in business doing that, and also get feedback from clients that they love working with us is just it's a real cool experience.
So one of the things that I remember from not only from your introduction, but you're interviewing people in these companies, employees, founders, customers, and you guys actually did that for us. You interviewed a bunch of customers, and you have an approach that kind of is hard to believe. Customers being on video, right, talking about their providers. And so how hard is that? That's always intrigued me, that when you did that with us and you did it great, but also the fact that it worked. And I'm actually going to show a couple of videos of our videos as well. But so talk to me about the process of why you're able to get the trust from companies.
Yeah, and so we put a lot of effort into building trust and creating an environment where people are comfortable sharing stories with us. It's tricky because people, whether it's someone we're speaking to, whether it's a customer or an employee, we all as humans have a tendency to fall into a habit of speaking in marketing jargon and marketing speak. And it's not really helpful to a viewer of that content to hear those things that are really unsubstantiated. The focus for us is uncovering stories that prove that you are who you say you are. And so whether it's an employee describing the culture or a customer describing the customer experience, we want a specific story that provides proof behind a claim that they've made. And so it's important to create an environment where someone is comfortable, sharing a true story. And we're also great at just kind of helping people along and digging deeper as we talk to them to come up with a specific example that proves the points that we're trying to make.
So I brought up, I'm sharing my screen, and I'm going to just only play a couple of seconds here. You did a video. Can you hear this okay on your side?
Yeah.
This is so personal. So directly.
He's a character. Outgoing.
Very outgoing. Very friendly.
Friendly. A very humble guy. Humble, really good business partner. A straight shooter.
Strong professional.
A lot of energy. Very detail oriented. Honest. Upfront and honest. A great judge of character. Hospitable.
This was the kind of, when I watched that video, I'm like, oh man, it's what's this? I've seen your videos even since then. The idea that companies are fearless to the point where they're saying, go talk to our customer, find out. Do you find a lot of friction in that in the industry, and especially in tech industry, because everything is live, right?
Well, that's part of it, is that it's not live broadcasted. We're creating an environment where we're talking to someone. It's being recorded. There are often lights, there's a camera. So that can be intimidating, but we really stress that it's not being broadcasted live. We are excellent editors. So, making it clear to that individual that, if you don't say the perfect thing, that's okay. You can repeat that answer to that question. And then we'll go back to our office and really piece it together in the editing process to make you sound really good, and you're going to look really good. By the way, we're so self-conscious about the work we did with you. It was very early in our process, so we've only improved a huge amount.
Oh yeah, but I'm biased because I thought it was quality work. Obviously, I know that technology has improved, processes have improved, and companies do this for a reason. There's a purpose behind all this. There's obviously the facts on the ground on how team members feel and operate within their companies. but then a lot of this content is used in HR videos for team members, to onboarding process, to obviously, the business development life cycle of selling a company, and especially in the consulting business, it's about who the team is, right? And so, talk to me a little bit about some of the big companies and how you've worked with them, from your customer base, for example. Why did they? I think you guys were in the beginning, and you guys were actually pioneering this approach of interviewing employees, interviewing customers, putting the content together rapidly, cost effectively. So you were disruptors in a sense, innovators in the industry. Talk to me a little bit about that part, and then talk to me about the touch point on technology after that. We'll talk a little bit.
Yeah. So you mentioned big companies and how we've worked with them. I think using Dell is a really great example. We actually first of all, we've been working with them for 5 years or so now. And the most recent project we wrapped up with them was a global project. We went to 9 countries.
Wow.
We went to Japan, China, Singapore, India, France, a couple locations in the US, went to Panama. So an amazing project. Our team got to travel to all these locations, and the impact of that is pretty huge for a company like Dell. First of all, the team we work with is constantly swamped with the need to communicate with candidates. In this case, we were working with the employer brand team, and so they're creating the content that candidates of the company or prospective candidates are consuming. And so they have tons on their plate. To be able to hire a company like us who will handle going to all of these different Dell offices around the world and create a series of videos and photos that all have the same look and feel. And then that we're also able to help localize each of the videos with translations and captions. That's a huge value to them. They don't have to deal with finding and sourcing individual videographers and project managers in each of these different locations, which would be a huge headache. They can come to a company like ours who can handle all of that for them. They basically, all the client has to do is identify the storytellers who they want us speaking to, and then we handle the rest. Yeah, so I think that would be, looking at Dell as an example of how we work with big companies is a good exercise. And then what's been really cool is that we worked with the employer brand team there, but they got all these amazing visual assets and visual storytelling from us that other departments started asking for that content to use. So it was really cool to see that we delivered the content to our client and the employer brand team, and then a few weeks later she emails us and said, check out this report which the corporate social responsibility team created. It's a different team in the company. They had their annual report they had to create, and they were pulling in the content that we had provided to the employer brand team. So that's kind of another cool way, or a cool dynamic of working with a big company like that, is that it's so easy to repurpose this great material that we've uncovered. It's great stories about the experience of working there, or if it were a customer, the experience of using the product or service.
Yeah.
It can be used in so many different ways. It's interesting to candidates, it's interesting to current employees, it's interesting to customers, it's interesting to investors, it's interesting to people interested to see how the company handles corporate social responsibility. There's so many different examples of how it can be repurposed.
Absolutely, and then well, I think it also creates harmony, at least to some extent, across, especially a large organization like that, distributed around the world. They get kind of synergize around, we are one team, even though we're in different countries, different places. That ties back right to right now. We are basically in different countries. If we're at home, everyone's working remotely, mostly in our industry. The tech industry is virtualized right now to COVID. in terms of the technology that you guys are implementing, is a technology in itself, right? So in terms of how you see this trend continuing to grow because of the nature of everything becoming virtual now. And I think it might stick. So I want to hear your technology angle and how distributed teams leverage storytelling so that they can be on the same page, and then we'll get into the COVID part of it.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And yeah, we can't really even have that conversation without also bringing in the COVID angle, because I mean, this has been quite a year. I mean, 2020 was difficult for so many different companies. And early on in the pandemic, that was definitely the case for us as well, knowing that the big part of our business was going on site with cameras, with lights, and interviewing people in person in offices. That completely disappeared as an option for us.
Right.
So we really had to adapt and create a new solution using technology. And so that's what we did. We, pretty early in the pandemic, we pulled together as a team. Everyone contributed, and we rolled out this new product or a new service where we send, it's called virtual story sessions, and we send an HD webcam, a high definition microphone, and lights. We send a kit with all those materials to the storytellers of the companies that we work with, and we are interviewing them remotely. So over Zoom. And
yeah, I'm actually checking out your storytelling page actually earlier.
And so that's been huge for our business, because we had a lot of projects that had been signed prior to the pandemic from companies that had planned to bring us in person. That became no longer an option, yet they still needed content. And so we were able to say to them, okay, let's try to convert this project from an in-person interview session to virtual story sessions. And we did it. We made the switch, and we sent these packs to their storytellers, interviewed them remotely, and it turned out that this was a really great experience for them, because first of all, we found that people being interviewed in their home made them feel really comfortable opening up and sharing stories with us, which is always our goal. And then also, we had a hunch about this, but it was true. Employees have a lot to say right now about the organizations that they work in. I mean, the pandemic has made things very difficult for everyone. But just for example, there are people who now are managing their children's, first of all, childcare, but also homeschooling. That makes work very difficult. There are people that, especially early on in the pandemic, there was insecurity about food. And so to hear from employees talking about how their organization has supported them during the pandemic has been really important, and really has made for some really great content. You could think of a candidate who's considering joining a company. They're watching a video or reading the story of one of the company's current employees talking about how the company supported them during the pandemic, and that's really compelling to a candidate. And so that's been a really cool experience. And then just going back to the original question you had, even the pandemic aside, there's been a trend toward more and more remote work. And so the pandemic kind of forced us to adapt and create a remote virtual offering, which will come in handy for us going forward. Even once we're through the pandemic, the remote work culture is here to stay, and it's going to continue growing. And so now we were kind of forced into creating a solution that would help us
Right.
help these companies.
I think, so the first one calls we did was actually about innovation and disruptive innovation. Innovation can come because you have a new idea, a new capability in the industry and so on. But innovation, if you go back to the adage that necessity is the mother of invention. And so we've had to, as a society, reinvent some things that I think are going to stick, like you said. I do have a bunch of people on the call, so believe it or not, like I told you at the beginning, I don't want to keep hogging I have a gift of gab. I'd love to take some questions via chat or video or directly talking here. Anyone have any questions so far?
It looks like we actually have a question in the chat.
In the chat, yeah.
So I can speak to that, the question from Rand.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll answer the second one first, which was how much of your work is for marketing, HR, internal operations, and management. I would say, I mentioned there's so many ways to repurpose the content that we create and different ways for us to work within organizations, exactly to your point in your question. The biggest use case for us is in recruitment. And so I mentioned in talking about the Dell project, we worked with the employer brand team, who is responsible for creating content that communicates with prospective candidates, active and passive candidates, to show them and build a connection with them about what it's like to work within the organization. So that's definitely the biggest use case. I think the second most common use case is for employee engagement. So this would fall oftentimes in the HR umbrella in the HR organization. So creating content that helps to engage employees. For example, it might be a story that someone shares that really shows an example of something they did that embodies one of the company's core values. That's a common one that we hear, is a particular story that embodies a core value. And so that's a great use case, is to, how do we connect people with our core values, which are often pretty lofty. A lot of times core values are written on the wall in an organization, but otherwise not always talked about. And so to have a true story of something that shows what it means to live that core value is hugely helpful for engagement. That's a good segue to a slide I prepared. So, Gia, cool with me sharing the screen?
Stop sharing, man. You can share.
Okay. And so we recently created this infographic, I guess. It's really a positive reinforcement loop that we found. It's really interesting. So it's basically, how do stories reinforce the culture and build talent brand? So it starts with uncovering those stories within the organization of these real culture experiences within the company. And so back to this like HR or employee engagement use case, picture that story that pretend story we were talking about that embodied a core value. What does that do? It makes it clear to other employees within the organization what it means to live those values. And so those employees start to feel more connected to the company. And then when those employees are feeling more connected to the company, they are also inspired to behave and act in ways that also, embody those core values, as an example. And so this culture is being reinforced because people are consuming stories of their colleagues, striving and thriving within the company.
Yeah.
And so those other employees behaving in that way creates opportunities to capture more stories because they've been doing other things that are story worthy. And so the company can then, document and capture and then share those stories further. But what's really exciting is that all this is helping the culture, And then meanwhile, there's also this like flywheel effect on the talent brand side of things. So not only are the stories building connections with the other employees in the company, but they're also building connections with candidates. So those same pieces of content can go from being used internally to being shared with candidates. Maybe it's on the career site of the company. And then candidates then end up joining the company. It's not just any candidates, it's candidates who really connect with the company's mission or values. And so they join the company and they're highly engaged, and then are able to take that engagement that they feel, that connection that they feel, and do things and make decisions and take actions that are also story worthy. And then the cycle continues, both internally around the culture, and then externally around the brand, the employer brand or the talent brand that candidates are consuming. So that was a long answer to the question. And your question also mentioned marketing. That is one area that we actually haven't done a ton with yet, but we're excited now that we've really established our processes and really feel confident in the work that we do. We feel great about opening up to other use cases, marketing being one. So we have done a couple projects where we've spoken with customers as the storytellers to talk to us about the experience of working with our client organization. And so we don't have the data yet to address the first question, which was, do you have any metrics on the impacts of such stories on revenue? Don't have that yet, but we're excited. We're excited to see what our content is able to do when used in a marketing use case, because we've already seen just amazing impact on the employee experience side. Any other questions I can answer?
I think I have one for you. I'm Tim. I'm currently I do marketing for New Light, and a lot of times I think about kind of like the stories we tell internally to the company versus stories we tell externally. And I really want to think about it in terms of like procedural, systematic things that we can do over the long period of time. So I was wondering if you had any kind of like advice or what your company does, maybe like weekly or monthly, that successfully engages employees, and maybe just like talk about like how to like any kind of like long-term changes to company culture that like these dependable systems allow for, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say one really helpful experience for us as a company is to turn the camera inward. And so, basically apply the process that we do to other companies on ourselves. And it always makes for a really valuable experience because, first of all, it helps us, create empathy for our clients. We get to feel what our storytellers experience so that we can, adjust our processes accordingly. That part of it isn't very helpful to you. But the part that's helpful to you is that it's a really great exercise. And whether you're using an external company to help you with this or not, that's beside the point. You could definitely do this internally without a company like ours. It's a lot of work. So we're happy to help anytime, is what we say. But the process of having people think about these stories that embody the culture of the company is a really helpful process. First, basically the selection of storytellers we've found to be really engaging to them. It's our clients are selecting a handful of storytellers for us to speak with, and it's a big honor that they've chosen the people that they've chosen to represent the company in the content we're creating. They've basically been selected because they were identified as really excelling in the culture and being great ambassadors of the culture. And so we've found that our process when working with clients is really engaging to the people that have been selected to speak with us. And so that's been really cool. It's a big honor for the people that are participating in the process. When it comes to doing this internally, the same would apply. I mean, if you're able to talk with everyone in the company, that's great. But if you're not able to, and you have to kind of select storytellers, they're going to feel honored and engaged to be selected as someone who's sharing stories representing the company.
There's a feedback loop in that when you were talking about earlier with the flywheel effect, the feedback loop. So there's a reinforcement. If you speak it, you most likely will embody it. And if you're talking about good culture and so on, that we have to live up to those expectations. And this is a goal setting that, so you guys did actually we use the videos. We've had many times we sent videos about the company as part of our recruiting process. And here's some information. At least one of those videos is this one where people want to know what's the culture of New Light Technologies. And I'm going to only do a 30-second version of that, but
how do we ensure that someone's the right cultural fit? Aside from outliers in the bell curve of personalities, for the most part, people are going to be the right cultural fit. We're not here to put a New Light Technologies culture on them. We're here to provide a New Light Technologies framework for them to work from.
While I was doing recruiting for New Light and managing the back office, as well as now, I still look for individuals who are independent thinkers and independent doers. I don't look for somebody who knows necessarily everything. We're looking for someone who has the capacity to think through problems and may have a methodology for it.
So I'm going to pick right there and just say that we try to reinforce living up to problem solving as a key ingredient of our success. The team members that we hire are going to be this type of person, and we want to absorb and work with and enhance the framework with the person's individual culture and so on. So there's a feedback loop. We use this video and others, and I'm not sure if anybody here was hired when they saw this video and they were like, okay, I'm interested in this company. If you did, let us know. We'd like to see some facts on some metrics here on the marketing and the feedback loop. But the same thing can be done with customers. We have other videos showing customers who have talked about New Light Technologies, and customers will come back to those who can quantify. If there's an existing customer or past customer talking about you in terms of as the company in terms of a successful engagement and delivery, and another new customer looks at that, and that's a validation without having to do a reference check. You can see someone, actual government or other customer talking about the work relationship. And we have some of those as well in our work that you guys did for us. But that's a marketing both to new team members and potentially new customers.
Yeah, that's a great point too about that feedback loop, positive feedback loop. I would add the process also forces it forces you to kind of reevaluate the ways you describe the culture, or maybe it's your core values or something. So a long time ago, we had a set of 7 core values. And we did this process of turning the camera internally and wanted team members to share stories that embodied each of these core values. And what we found was there were 1 or 2 that people weren't really able to come up with good examples of how we live those values. And so that was, that kind of forced us to reevaluate the values. Like here we have a couple of these values that nobody on the team naturally thinks about or naturally has stories that prove that we have that value. And so that was an impetus for us to revisit our core values, and we came up with, we refined them, and that one was removed from our list of values because we just weren't able to speak to it. properly. It just wasn't part of our everyday language.
It's a great quality control introspection on yourself as a team and how you convey that both internally and to customers. Customers are going to want to work with team members and companies that have a cohesive value, mission, culture around delivery and so on. They're not necessarily hiring your personality, but your persona as a team. And so each individual's combined persona is what customers hire. Especially in tech now, there's so many different providers for any kind of tech that you need. I think this kind of storytelling and delivery is a key ingredient for across the board. We're at 12:45. Scott, the time just like, believe it or not, it's flying. And anyone have any questions around what we've talked about so far? I got one. My last question is about tech trends and AI, doing deep fake videos and creating your own, purely AI-based videos. And so that's becoming more prevalent. I always close on something related to AI, unfortunately. And we have a lot of AI skilled people in our company, and obviously we deal with machine learning and data science for that. But videos are becoming. Anybody have any question before I ask my last question? Going once? Okay, cool. Like I said, I have tons of questions. The trend nowadays is, in automated video delivery and development and delivery, and just taking, you can even go as far as what's happening now, where there's a body scan that happens, and then it's fed into an AI machine, and you can type in whatever, and it will recreate videos based on whatever either topic you generate for it or actual script, and it'll go to town and make a video. How do you see that as a disruption, and how are you guys angling to leverage that and use that as a continued growth strategy?
Yeah. Wow, that's a toughie. I would say, yeah, on the one hand, we've always been a company that has taken the route that is less easy or less scalable. Like we're a service business that provides really hands-on white glove service and creates a facilitated process to uncover these stories. So I'd say there are probably other companies that would be more inclined to adopt the AI approach to the actual, creation or uncovering of the stories. I feel like for us, it's such like building a human to human connection with our storytellers is so critical to our process that I think any uses of AI that we would adopt would probably be on the post-production side, where we'll have already created, or we would have already uncovered the stories using our approach, which is, human to human, where, we've uncovered these stories. On the back end is where we could potentially, at some point, use some of the AI technologies to, for example, create a easier editing process for us. I saw an example of a new tool out there that there's you upload a video into it, it automatically spits out a text transcript of the video.
Yeah.
And then you can go into that text and, highlight 3 words, delete those 3 words, and then it automatically edits the video based on the edits you made to the text, which is incredible. So yeah. I see opportunities for us to use tools like that on the back end side of what we do.
It's going to help you guys scale, I think, if implementing AI post processing and continuous delivery, and we had an agile conversation last week. So agile's DevSecOps. This is, again, here is agile delivery, continuous improvement around your service delivery. So I think there's a place for AI, but I don't think that the fake videos are going to go too far. I think the quality comes from that human touch that you guys provide as well. So, wow, time has flown. I am really thankful for you joining us today. You know, again, I think we're going to be engaging with you guys with on the next life cycle. New Light Technologies is on its 20th year this year. So
Congratulations.
20th year videos, and you guys did our 10th year kind of video set. And so looking forward to that. Any closing comments, Scott, before we end?
No, just this was a lot of fun. I was probably long-winded at times, but I appreciate everyone sticking around, and I hope it was helpful. And always don't hesitate to reach out to me. My email address is scott@storiesincorporated.com. Also encourage you to find our company on LinkedIn, Stories Incorporated. Our marketing team puts out amazing, really great content and shares it through our LinkedIn channel. So highly recommend following our LinkedIn channel and keeping tabs on what we do.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Scott. And please say hello to Lauren and the team, and we will see you soon. Have a great rest of the day.
Sounds great. Thank you. Have a good one.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.